Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hollywood Matt Connolly with the double biceps. It is in the contract. It is a legal requirement. Every single time you appear on camera, it is in the fine print. It's very small. It's written there. I didn't see it when I originally signed the contract, but now I got to do it every single time. It's nothing to do with me showing off my biceps that have taken 21 years to develop in the gym. Nothing to do with that at all, not whatsoever. They're very, very modest about that. It's not something you would see me doing. If you did meet me, you wouldn't ever see me doing stuff like that. I would never wear a t-shirt of me doing stuff like that.
Or the t-shirt specifically of you posing, for instance, would never be created.
No, no, that's right.
Yeah.
This is a projection of me, but it was captured in one of the intro moments. So yeah, it was a rare moment.
Is it just the start of any social media content that you might be involved in, or is this like when you get home after work? What's how you going? I'm going great.
Yeah,
yeah.
You got to do it no matter what.
Yeah, right.
If you've got this sort of an arm,
yep,
you're pulling it out.
It's not very. It is pretty good though. It is good.
It's so washed out in this. I got to put the contrast up, but I'm going to post it.
Should we? Yeah, we need a bit of lighting. I think if we're going to do any more bodybuilding style poses. Yeah.
So just take the shirt off. Is that?
I mean, whatever works for you. You know,
I'll let the shirt do.
Let's see what happens to the views.
I'll leave the shirt here.
It might be a better intro.
Yeah, that's it. Might be a better guest. Yes, and thank you for sticking around through my ridiculous intro there. But the co-host, we've lost everyone. They've dropped off already. The first 30 seconds is gone. Before we even got to
It can only get better.
So it started low. Well, the co-host, the co-founder, the man who's made all of this happen for the last 2 years, I think we've been running for now.
Has it been that long?
I think it has.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we've done, well, it's this episode, it's been number 49.
Number 49.
49. And so
maybe a year or so.
Yeah, a year and a bit. Not 2 years.
We're into our second year, our second inaugural year.
Second inaugural year.
May I remind you?
That's right. Anyone who said 2 years is a complete nonce. So, yes, but it is, in fact, the winner of the Dave Stockbridge of the Year award.
Thank you.
47 years in a row. Apart from the years he did drop it in the early 90s to Vincent Ronaldo, famed hairdresser, and one in the late 90s to Vincent Colosimo, the famed actor. A lot of Vince's sort of crept into your world in those years.
Well, Vince Colosimo, of course, had enormous success in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, and then by the late 90s was trying his luck in Hollywood. I don't know if you might remember the trajectory of, and he appeared in several Hollywood blockbusters, and that's where and that was the time that I won the AFI. So so in some ways things did balance out there, so it is good, but. Vince Colosimo. We've always it's been a rivalry, but it's been a friendly rivalry. Okay. Apart from the occasions when it hasn't, which is almost every time we see each other.
Right.
So I want to take this opportunity to extend the olive branch to Vince Colosimo.
Yeah.
And just let him know, no hard feelings. I didn't do anything other than be a brilliant actor to win the AFI, but he deliberately went out of his way to win the Dave Stockbridge of the Year award.
That's right.
And I mean, I think that says a lot more about Vince Colosimo than anybody, else in this situation. But nonetheless, I have nothing but love for Vince Colosimo, and I wish him all the best.
Right. Yeah. Do you ever think of his name and if your brain wants to change it to Vince Colostrum? Because that's what happens to me.
Yeah, really?
Vince
you
Colostrum.
get word association.
And I've got to go, no, that's not correct. It's Colosimo.
Yes.
Every time, Vince Colosimo. Colostrum.
But I think Vince Colosimo might have just recently run into some trouble. Actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
his curls not curly.
He didn't perm up and wax up enough to to prepare for a role. I don't know.
Wog Boy 3 is not a green light.
Well, there is a project that was afoot, and I believe his indiscretions have meant that whole project's been put on ice for now. So I don't want to cast any dispersions. Like I say, I want to reach out to Vince, and I want to use this opportunity to reach out with the olive branch, and I don't want to start any rumours or perpetuate anything. No. But that's the rumour.
So not starting any rumours that his career is in a nosedive and he's struggling and the end of his days are numbered.
Producers are running.
That's definitely not what we're saying.
I definitely wouldn't want to put that out there.
It's colostrum.
But what I would say to anybody involved in that project is that I'm available and ready to go. I'm ready for my next AFI.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, starring role.
Wog Boy 3.
Yeah, Wog Boy 3. What is your cultural background?
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
No.
You've made it up.
No, that's right.
Eskimo.
It's fluid.
It's gender fluid and ancestral.
Yeah.
Is it Scottish?
We've got. So I'm a direct male line descendant of Saint Columba. And there's old Irish kind of old Irish royalty kind of that descended off that same line. I don't think I'm a direct descendant off of that branch, but anyway, that's one of those things. We understood that from the genealogical test. About 85% of my DNA is southeast England, and the balance seems to be out of Ireland and with a bit of Spanish thrown in there.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So
nice.
My great grandmother was Spanish, married an Irishman, and on the other side, we found that they were church wardens in the southeast of England for about 400 years in the same location. So
they did that for 400 years.
For 400, was it like a
really long? There were also vampires there.
You think that's right? And they're all still alive. Yeah, so it's lovely. Family reunions are special. Yeah,
have to be held at night.
Yes. But yeah. So that's my my cultural.
Have you done one of those
background.
tests?
And Mexican? No,
right.
Mexican. No.
Well, not Spanish, Mexican.
No.
Right. Okay. Portuguese. Have you done one of those swab things? Oh, you did. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. That's how we. Because men can do it along their. I think it's called the mitochondrial line, or your mother's line and your paternal line. But you can do it. Women can only, I think, go up the female line, so they can find out their whole female history. But not necessarily the male line.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does it depend on which nostril they go with?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's good. Exactly right. So, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. see what happens.
Righty's daddy, lefty.
So if you're so inclined, and I think it was a few $100 or something like that. So
I'm pretty sure mine is pretty easy. It's Irish and English. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Might be surprised. You never know.
Yeah.
A lot of people are.
Yeah. Well, did you see that Oprah Winfrey episode?
I mean, it's got to be a reason why he's 6'3".
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's Vince Colostrum. I threw myself then. I was like, the first
colostrum on the mind.
Yeah, no, the Oprah Winfrey episode where they had, the theme of the episode was like white supremacists.
Yeah.
and this guy was like, I think he was in the Ku Klux Klan or something. He was very against anyone who wasn't, white. And they gave him the DNA test, and he came out. It was like 12% black. And he was actually kicked out of his group and everything. And
so the Ku Klux Klan said,
yeah,
sorry,
it's too high, man. Yeah. he refused to believe it. It's like, it's right here, dude. Like that's part of who you are.
Yeah, but you can be a bit of everyone.
Yeah.
I like the idea that they're kind of establishing a scientific Adam and a scientific Eve out of all of this. And it's an amazing body of work over the last 10 or so years with respect to that. I think we've learned some really interesting things about human migration patterns, and some really anomalous events have obviously occurred over time, because you've got people, Denisovan DNA, which is like a sub-branch, a subhuman, like Neanderthals are a sub kind of branch. You've got Denisovans who, Denisovan DNA has been found in, the demographic that has the highest percentage of Denisovan DNA is Aboriginals.
Okay.
And but what's really interesting about this is that they've found traces of that same DNA in indigenous populations in South America and the Amazon, who have, for all intents and purposes, been separated from what who'd previously been believed to have been separated from those the populations of those areas by 15 to 20,000 years.
Wow.
So, but we're seeing some trace elements and enough to kind of indicate that there may have been some interbreeding. So that would probably mean that there's been some ability for people to be able to traverse the Pacific Ocean sometime in...
Jet skis.
Jet skis could be.
Sorry.
Imagine if it was. Yeah, so who knows? Who knows?
Ancient jet skis.
Yeah. But you know about the lost continent of Zealand? Have you heard it?
I think you were telling me about this. Yeah. So the Atlantis theory, was that similar?
Well, there's a continent that's been identified off of the coast of Australia, or east of Australia, in the Pacific Ocean.
New Zealand?
And in New Zealand, so and I think they call it Zealand. I think that's what it's called. I could be wrong on that, but it's so they've identified it as being a continent. It's submerged underwater, so I don't know if that disqualifies it. I don't know how the other continents feel about it. Like, why is that a continent that's underwater and we're all above water, and you can't count the area off of our beaches as being part of the continent, but that whole thing's like not even got a beach. And I don't know. If I was a continent, well established, I'd probably be upset at the categorization. But nonetheless, that's
how upset would you be?
Enough to complain about it on a podcast. And so they've identified that now. If you accept that was indeed the case, if you look at the high points, they're things like Easter Island. So and you consider Easter Island, and if you were going to put anything significant, if you were to say an ancient civilization that had mastered the ability to manipulate stone and to move large monolithic structures and place them geographically. And in celestial alignment, if you had a civilization that was sophisticated to do those types of things, it's actually interesting that they've then gone, okay, we're going to put these things in the highest point that we can, and in the event of cataclysm or high water levels as being experienced comparatively to ancient times. That's now an island, and so you've got the remnants of a civilization. Nobody knows how or why they're there or whatever, but you'd have to go back a long time. Certainly, it doesn't appear that Australian Indigenous culture, after 40 to 80,000 years, depending on who you listen to, had the ability to be able to undertake such engineering feats. You had a civilization that was potentially sophisticated enough to do that 12, 15,000 years ago in the middle of the Pacific. What happened to that?
Yeah. You're saying aliens? Is that what?
No, it's exactly what I'm pointing to.
Is it Elon Musk? Is he an alien?
Is Elon Musk an alien?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Should we ask him?
Well, we've got
him on the line.
Yeah.
I used to go to school with Dennis Oven. I was waiting to use that joke for ages. I have to keep remembering it.
Dennis Oven.
Yeah. I was like, that's good. I
wonder if that's the only Dennis Oven related joke.
I think it's good. If you were a Dennis, if for any Dennis Ovens out there, then I feel free to laugh at this joke because it is about you and you have a funny name.
Well, there is a Sam Oven. Have you ever got caught up in his little web of marketing funnels?
No, what's he all about?
It's just he sells from what I can determine, he sells online courses in how to create sales funnels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and apparently very successful at it. He's a New Zealand guy. He's made it big in the US apparently. But once you kind of get caught up, if you happen to, I don't know, come across one of his YouTube ads or accidentally press a button or look. Ask for more information. You can't unsubscribe. You can't get out of the web.
Yeah.
Like you're stuck in the web.
It just bombards you with emails and
But then what struck me is I'd not come across somebody called Oven before.
It's a weird name. Yeah. OVEN.
I wonder if people in the future would be called Microwave.
Yeah, they will. Microwave oven. The science oven.
Yes.
Don't put metal in the science oven.
Has anybody done that to a child whose last name's Oven? Is microwave oven?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Convection microwave.
Yeah. Have you had any funny names through your schooling? We had a Teresa Green. Teresa Green.
Teresa Green.
We also had a guy, I won't say his real first name. Let's go with Peter. Peter, and his surname was Feltus. So whenever they would say, Peter Feltus, like, did he? Why is he feeling everyone? And one of the guys I used to work with, his surname is Bell, and he married a lady called Isabel.
Isabel Bell.
Legitimately. There's no way around it, though. I was like, oh God, what do you do?
Change your own name.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess you'd go with Izzy or something like that. Isabel Bell.
Yeah. Speaking of Izzy.
Yeah, don't know where she is.
I believe she's in South Africa.
Is she uncovering that island that you were talking about?
She might be.
Underneath.
Yeah, she's trying to find the treasures.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that, I know you know a lot about the history of certain civilizations and that sort of thing, and it is always interesting when they discover these, like the Machu Picchu thing, and it's like these lost civilizations that it's like obviously something significant amount of people lived here for a long period of time and created this, and then they're just gone. And then some other people in the future have come along and gone, wow, what is all of this? The Eastern Island stuff. And it's like, you're looking at the architecture going, how the hell did they even do this stuff?
It's kind of amazing. Have you heard of a great year or precession of the equinox?
The equinox in regard to pagan.
Well, the equinox is like where you get a 3 equinoxes a year: the spring, autumn, summer. So you got but you got a precession of the equinox. So the North Star isn't always the North Star. So our current North Star, I think we've got another 30 or so years left, and then the North Star changes. So
it's fluid.
Yes, that's right. It's also cheese. Camembert, and so what happens is that the Earth's relationship to the rest of the solar system it changes. So I think it's about a degree a year, something along those lines. And so once it's gone through, I think it's 72 of those degrees. So over a great year is when you've got the Earth has the solar system has done a full lap. So Earth has done a full lap of the solar system from here all the way around to here, and it takes about 24,500 years.
Jeez.
But we do know that people were aware of the existence of the Great Year and had calculated it pretty precisely 10 to 15,000 years ago.
Wow. Greece, was it? Ancient Greece?
No, before the ancient Greeks. I mean, the knowledge that the Egyptians had and Sumerians had. But it's quite remarkable. So, yeah. So so when you think how long does it take you to work out that, or in observation of the stars, that you're moving so incrementally, and then how long does it take you to develop a methodology around measuring that precisely so that you can determine? Firstly, it'd be some observation, and how long's that observation go for before you start creating an instrument that's reliable enough to record it accurately? And then, then how do you extrapolate that and that information and work out? It's a pretty much 24,400 and whatever years, 560 years, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's stunning. It's just stunning, you know. So there's been people on this planet that have been smart enough to do that. It does also appear that, I mean, from old maps, the Paris maps, for instance, there's some suggestions amongst some of these old cartographers that, and this is going back thousands of years, but we've got maps that are 500 or so years old that show the Antarctic as two separate islands. Now, to go back to a time when there was so little ice that you could work that out would be 15 or so thousand years ago.
Jeez.
So how do you how was that knowledge freely available when we hadn't even worked that out ourselves with our sophisticated instrumentation and measuring devices? You know, even 30 or 40 years ago, we didn't know that. So this is quite remarkable. There's a lot of knowledge that's somehow been retained but hasn't been necessarily
passed on.
Yeah.
Well, they put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
They write it on a McDonald's napkin or something.
Yes. Yeah. So there's all of that type of stuff intrigues me.
It is. It's amazing. It you know, when you look at those sorts of things, even the pyramids and how they were built, and you've got the question of, well, you know, how the precision that they had with the way that the structure was developed and the architecture in terms of the framework to get to be able to do that, even today, would be a monumental, difficult task. And you're talking hundreds of years ago, or even thousands of years ago. I don't know how old they are, but you know,
well, nobody really knows.
Yeah, with what the basic tools that they would have had. There was no motor stuff. There was just very basic, you know, pickaxes and whatever you could, you know, get your slaves, I guess, to like gather and move stones and. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Well, what's really interesting about a few of those things is there's John West did a lot of work on the erosion of the Great Pyramid and of the Sphinx. And the Sphinx, interestingly, was still under sand up until about 150 years ago, thereabouts. So,
wow.
So it should have been quite well preserved, and was the Great Pyramid. It also has a lot of erosion, which had previously been attributed to wind erosion, that which you might imagine like sandblasting, for instance. But the way that sand erodes stone is certainly different to the way that water does, and the signature that's left behind by that erosion is vastly different. And the signature of erosion over the Great Pyramid is definitely corresponds with that of water. You've got some people in high places when it comes to Egyptology, and there's definitely some gatekeepers to a lot of the information that's become traditional and the mainstream and what's been taught in schools. And a lot of that was based on some pretty based on assumptions that were quite wild assumptions, but was taken as fact and taught in schools almost immediately as new knowledge. And so there is a great deal of conjecture over the age of these things. But if we cast our mind back to the Great Pyramid, there was a time when there was enough water to cause that erosion on the Great Pyramid, and that period's about 10 to 12,000 years ago.
Wow.
So
it's done before that.
There's that is some kind of evidence, and then you've got some other pretty significant sites around the world that seem to have been filled in by hand sometime around 10 to 15,000 years ago as well. So the thing about the several of these sites is that they weren't thought to be old because the oldest thing we knew of was the pyramids. But now there seems to be some evidence to suggest that we've come across man-made structures that could be 20,000 years old.
Wow.
And I think that, this as more archaeology and as we start to discover more of the world, LiDAR is exposing a lot of what the civilization of the Amazon, where there appears to be population centres that 500-600 years ago were greater than that of London at the time.
Wow.
There's some suggestion that there was population centres or quite sophisticated cities with sewage systems and plumbing and quite obviously sophisticated social orders and structures that supported millions and millions and millions of people.
Where did they go?
Where did they go and how did they live? Well, there's part of this discovery is around there's a thing called black earth or black dirt, black soil, and it's a man-made soil, so you can't grow anything really in the Amazon.
Okay.
It's not very good for growing vegetables, fruit, or anything like that. So you can't support a population of millions in the Amazon, and that was obviously previously the theory that although we're seeing some of these things, I mean, there's no way that you could live there off of the fruits of the forest, so to speak. And but now they've found this black earth, and it's organic matter that's man-made. Now nobody knows how to make it. So it's an ancient man-made soil that was used in the Amazon to cultivate vegetables to support populations of millions of people.
Wow.
Now, when you take this soil, by the way, if you take some of this soil and you put it pretty much anywhere, it activates the soil around it and makes it fertile.
Wow. It's so strange to think that.
But we don't know how to make that now.
Yeah. But what the hell happened to these where did they all go?
Where did they go? Where did they go? There's almost like there was a cataclysm or a series of cataclysms that have wiped people out. Whether that be asteroidal impacts, disease, combinations of these factors.
Bad actors. Bad movies.
Yeah.
Life's all people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monkeypox.
Oh, yeah. Deadly.
Yeah.
For monkeys.
So, there's this whole world out there of that we don't know enough about to be able to teach in schools, and where there's up until recently a lot of that was thought to be pseudoscience, and the archaeology seems to be pointing us increasingly in the direction that it looks like we're building stuff 20,000 years ago, not just stuff, but we're talking about singular blocks of solid granite rock that's 20 meters tall, 30 meters tall, cut perfectly, erected into place somehow. You don't know how.
Aliens. Elon Musk.
Yeah.
He's given the tips with his eyebrows, I think. He's Morse code. This is how I did it. He was selling a flamethrower at one point.
Yeah. The boring company, I think it was the name of the company that was used as the vehicle for that.
Yeah, that's right.
Exercise.
I like the guy. I think he's very entertaining in terms of his ideas and the fact that he's able to get stuff off the ground. Because a lot of people will have pie in the sky ideas. Oh, we can do this, and it's like that's actually not a bad idea. But then they just don't implement it. It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
but he makes it happen, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right. He's able to probably better than anybody else take society changing concepts and implement them effectively, reasonably economically. I mean, it costs him 1/5 of the money to fly something into space than it does NASA or some metric like that. I mean, it's very, very, very efficient, and history comes down to not many people. It comes down to usually a few. Like, what does our civilization look like if we don't have a Isaac Newton or a Einstein,
John Howard,
or a Don Trump? Yeah.
I jumped in just before you. I got 1 second before you.
What happens without these figures who tend to, they mightn't necessarily change the direction or the world, but they bump it into a certain different trajectory, perhaps, and those types of people are few and far between. That's why they're so greatly revered.
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan. Well, one in 8 people in Asia are direct descendants of Genghis Khan.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's
so
how much of the world that he conquered?
Yeah. I mean, Genghis Khan can be attributed to running the first known meritocracy. So he had a habit of recruiting his enemies. So if he saw that somebody was an effective commander, saw that they were a good soldier, he'd offer them the chance to come on board, and if they did, great, and if they didn't, they'd probably get slaughtered. So, but those that did and did well in his army got rewarded just like anybody, just like a native. So very, very interesting, because you wonder, how that might go in this woke world.
Yeah, exactly. And you would think that you would be paranoid at all times, because if you've surrounded yourself, in theory, with a lot of your potential, former enemies, and it's like, these people are now fighting for me, but are they just trying to get close to me? You know what I mean? I think you would always be second guessing. I don't know how he died, actually. I don't know a lot about the guy, but I'm guessing it was probably brutally. By the hands of Elon Musk's flamethrower.
I want to say suspected poisoning.
Poisoning?
Maybe.
Wow. We could look it up, but I like to theorize instead.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. Let's go with poisoning.
Poisoning. Yeah.
Okay. A lot of that going around.
Suspected poisoning.
Where are they getting all this poison from?
Sure. I don't know if it was a wife or a girlfriend. I
don't know.
No, I don't know.
Should we look it up?
Could do. I mean, I don't know. There you go.
I'm doing it.
All right.
It's happening. We're going with poisoning for Dave. I'm going with flamethrower from Elon Musk. Genghis Khan. How this.
Now, apologies to anybody who tunes into the podcast for combat sports.
Yeah, we will get there.
Commentary,
hey,
but
this guy conquered half the world.
We excitingly, we've got DFC 15 at the Adelaide Oval on the 1st of October. So that is going to be a huge event. I was fortunate enough to lunch with the promoter and organiser of that event, Craig Ike, just a little bit earlier, and he was assuring me that some of these matchups are going to be absolutely huge. So really looking forward to DFC 15 at the Adelaide Oval. Exact cause of death is a mystery.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. By action or from wounds sustained in hunting or battle. I thought it was something to do with in his sleep or something like that.
Seems to be
died hunting while dying. He fell from his horse while hunting. Maybe. Died of an infection afterwards. Maybe. Yeah, I guess all of that makes sense.
Horse probably did it.
Yeah.
Horse took over, I think.
Yeah, all of those Stan regions, it's quite remarkable, and the successor empires that came as a result of that, of course, had a very lingering influence, and the demographic shift that occurred as a result of this really it just didn't affect that region, but almost all of Western Europe, as well as the Magyars were forced into Europe, and now the native people of Hungary, for instance, and in part they share their language. Their language group is Finnic Uralic, so shared with Finnish people. So you had a lot of people push that far north that were natives of the Caucasus that fled the Golden Horde, and then you had successor states that popped up in Afghanistan from direct male line descendants of Genghis Khan, who eventually conquered most of India, and right up until the British set up shop there were the most influential, to the extent that in most courts and governments that Hindi was never spoken.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it? I was reading a thing with the English army maybe 200 years ago, and when there wasn't a war to be fought, they would get their soldiers to keep them active and doing something. They would like that castle over there, knock it all down, and then build it up again. So they're doing purpose. Something. Yeah, exactly. Because if they're just sitting around doing nothing, it's like, they get bored.
Well, they'll go to war. That's what they're there for.
With each other.
Yeah, that's right. They're there to
idle
fight.
hands are the devil's work. Is that
idle hands? Idle hands. Something like that. Something
along those lines.
Yeah, productivity is the source of morale. Yeah, another one for you.
Don't eat cheese before noon.
Don't have cappuccinos after midday.
That's also something. but what do you think of the ancient gladiator battles that were happening? Because we're leading towards getting back to our combat sports side of things.
Are we? Okay.
Yeah, but the ancient gladiator arenas and stuff like that. Does that fascinate you in a way? Do you ever look into that and like, that would have been amazing? Or do you think it was barbaric, or it was, obviously it was done for entertainment to, and in some cases politically minded to keep the crowd and the populace occupied while they did other stuff in the background. Yeah. But, a very interesting time that, the Colosseum and all the rest of it with those sort of brutal battles that were going on there.
Yeah, well, I think so. I mean, if you can look at that from several perspectives. Is it the spectacle in order to create distraction, and in some part that's the case? Is it a matter of people enjoy a contest and want to see their hero win, and there was a lot of that. So there was that narrative storytelling that we might see in say WWE, and in some small way with UFC with their promotion videos and that type of thing. So you can see that people are vested in the same way they might be vested in the tribalism of football or any of the football codes, for instance. So. Yep. People do like to spend their energy in those places. I think overwhelmingly you find that the audiences for those types of, and including combat sports and football and the like, are generally men too old to play the sport anymore. So there's also that element of vicariously playing out your youth once again, or righting the wrongs, or making sure that the tribe of this generation does better than the tribe of the last generation or your generation perhaps, and you want to feel in part that maybe this generation standing on the shoulders of the giants of your generation. All of these types of things I think get wrapped up into sport, and then of course it's that ultimate pitting two equals against each other in order to find out who ultimately is the better man or or woman. All of those things I think are kind of in it. There's so much interplay between those elements that humans are hardwired to love those things when put together.
What do you think that is?
I think it's because if we're not playing, we like to watch people play, because then the risks associated with playing are not as great as what they are in real life. So we like to see in sports people the best character traits. So this is why there's controversy at the moment in Australian rules football, where you've got a sporting club that's had a controversial end of year camp a few years ago, and what's come out of that is that apparently there was some alleged racist remarks and a bunch of things that are going on in the background of that situation, which was then suppressed by the club. And it's so it was one thing that those things happen, but then it seems to be that there's been some the clubs actively suppressed people's right to be able to discuss the matter much further, and so people get upset about that type of thing, because they want to see in sport the best character traits of people prevail, and those character traits, when exhibited at their best, prevail in victory, because it's an indication to them that if they're being their best, or they bring their best to a certain day, they give themselves every chance of winning, in life as well. So people like to see that the hero's journey in their team, in individuals. I think that's because it enables people to do it vicariously. It enables people to do it safely. It's a good practice run for the greater things that might happen in life. And almost always, sport is just it's war, it's battle in a much safer environment.
It is interesting. I think with these days, the access to see so much of the character, the person, the athlete outside of the actual sport, it's almost at a level where like I don't like seeing that side of them that much because I know that they're a real person and they've got families and responsibilities. They got ups and downs the same as everyone else. I don't really want to. I'm envisioning them. Like, say, if they're a fighter, I want to see them just as them in the cage. That's how I'm thinking of them. Yep. But when you find out all this background and you're like, it can change your view on somebody, whether it's for the positive or negative. But it is an interesting time that there is so much information available because, say, maybe even... So 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if you had a hero in the AFL or something like that, and it's like you'd only see him play, you'd never hear from him in between. And it's like...
You didn't know he was smoking Peter Jackson's
yes.
at halftime and things like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you remember, I don't know why this popped in my head. Do you remember when they put that number 4 on the pig and for Tony Lockett?
Yes.
It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Anyway, yeah, but having that background on people, and I remember Christian Bale, who's one of the big Hollywood movie stars, was saying that he hates the fact that with his films there is so much behind the scenes stuff. And he's like, I don't want people to see that because I want them to see the film and see me as the character and have the film presented to them. But when you have access to seeing exactly how every shot was created, the thought process of what they were doing and how it was all set, and because it takes away that magic element, where it's like it's an ethereal sort of a separate thing that you're watching, but then when you see all that other stuff, and it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of people in front of a green screen. In some cases, it's very strange, but. What I always found interesting was with Dorian Yates, who was Mr. Olympia for 6 years, and they called him the Shadow. His nickname was the Shadow, and he was called the Shadow because he went and trained. He stayed in England, and he would train there pretty much like alone. He had his training partners and that would train with him, but
in the dungeon,
pretty much, and he wouldn't train with. Like everyone else was, in Gold's Gym or in their little in California, or they were very out there. And the only time you'd see Dorian Yates or hear from him was on the Olympia stage, and he would be the shadow that was looming over. It's like everyone's having and all year they're seeing each other, seeing the progress, but you don't know what's going on with Dorian Yates. You don't see him at all until the day of the competition, and then it's here he is. What's he got? I like that. I think that's really cool.
So it's the sausage making. Some people want to see the sausage, how the sausage is made, and they're very technically minded, and that's what they want. They want to see how much fat and how much gristle and how many arseholes, how many eyeballs. What do we got to put in there? And
7, I think.
And then, but some people just like to have a tasty hot dog.
Yeah.
But why do people love combat sports so much is because I think combat sports is as close as you get to battle and war, and as it most closely approximates battle more than any of the other sports. Football, it's a team environment. I can understand people's connection to the various codes, but I think everything that people want out of football, they find in a much more visceral sense in combat sports. And you see in the cage or in the ring, people's character and moments, and you see people find the courage to fight back or to meet their fears or to have the presence of mind to have some timing and not over. You can see these things play out in. It might be a 3-minute round, and you can see the whole kaleidoscope of emotions play out and narrative play out, and but also probably the thing is with combat sports is that it comes with the greatest risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's so that's what makes it so attractive, because you want to see your guy or your girl be the one that triumphs in the most testing of situations, when they're testing themselves against somebody who's equal or maybe better. And what do we learn about people when they do that? There's always growth on the other side for the combatant, but what lessons do we kind of draw away? And one of my observations of people of the combat sports world is that you, generally speaking, don't meet a nice bunch of people,
right?
And because they've thought about these things on a deeper level than the greater population and understand the risks and their own fragility for what that might be. And for those people, for a lot of them, it's certainly they're not as fragile as everybody else, but they understand that their own mortality and in a moment, their lives could be changed dramatically. Yeah. But even in understanding that and knowing that, they're still willing to put themselves at risk and to test themselves regardless, and to see what's on the other side of the final bell.
Facing adversity and with the highest consequences if you make the wrong move. If you dip to the left when you're supposed to dip to the right, you're going to get a head kick. It's going to potentially, the potential of death is there. Thankfully, we haven't had any deaths in UFC. There has been some in some of the smaller organizations, which mainly I think has been attributed to weight cuts. People cutting way too much weight, they're being dehydrated, going into the fight, getting absolutely smashed, and then it's like 3 days later they're dying in a coma in a hospital. Comparatively to boxing, it's one of the safest sports out there. But you're right about the thought level that goes into that, and if you're willing to put yourself under those circumstances regularly in training, some of these guys are training twice a day, 6 days a week. How could you have an ego? If you know where you're at and you know how often you've been beaten and tapped and choked out and rocked and punched and hurt, and it's like, I know that I have the ability to be hurt regularly. I'm not walking around in an office job thinking I'm the best fighter in the world. And I've never thrown a punch at anybody ever. So it is an interesting introspective look that these people carry. Because they're faced with that constantly. The humility that they have as a result of that awareness is what makes these people so nice to deal with, because they've already worked through that. Rather than let's contrast that with, say, a young man or a teenage young man who's a bit drunk on a Saturday night and wants to fight everyone. It's the complete opposite. Doesn't have humility, doesn't have personal control, doesn't have restraint or discipline. It might be the alcohol doing that, but it's the actual opposite to what you find in a well drilled, well disciplined MMA or boxing fighter. Because they know what the consequences are. Like, you can go into a fight and get really hurt. And it's like, do I want to do that for this drunken fool? Or if I'm messing around with my mates, it's like, we're messing around or something. But if it's going to get serious, it's like, I don't want this to get serious. Like, I know where this goes if it gets serious.
It goes somewhere bad.
It doesn't go somewhere good. Even if I win, it's bad for you or it's bad for me. It's not a fun time. Whereas, somebody who's not used to those situations, or they, as you said, if they're drunk, or if they're, they think, I want to take everyone on, I want to show off. It's like that's where you can get somebody that will learn very quickly. Why you shouldn't act that way.
Well, it's also interesting that when you reflect upon an ancient sport, you think about the Colosseum, you think about the gladiators, and then you think about what would have been I mean, if that's a sport, maybe it's more a spectacle. But what would have been a precursor to that, and really there are only a few things that people can compete against. It's picking things up, it's running, it's fighting each other, there's not too many, and so this is where you see that sport, other sports, football, whatever it might be, it's just the extrapolation of fighting, where there's a way of working out who's the best without people getting too hurt, and the degree of violence that's permitted in that sport, it comes down to the extent that people are willing to allow themselves to be hurt within a sport that's usually a hobby as well. So, and maybe football's one of the more Australian rules football, or rugby is one of the more physically confronting sports that you're likely to come across outside of combat sports. Yeah. But it's unlike combat sports, it's also a team sport. So, and of course, that serves our primal needs for tribalism and belonging and that type of thing. Although my observation of most of the fighters is that they very much have that in their gyms and in their support and through their coach and their corner. So, if you speak to most fighters, or almost always the first thing that fighters do is thank their family, thank their friends, their girlfriend and their coach, so for very good reason, of course. So, to those people, it is a team sport very, very much, although they're the individual participant on the day.
Tribal mentality is really interesting, isn't it? Because people love it. They love to grab it. They love to pick a team, no matter what it is, no matter whatever. Like, we were talking about the DNA.
It's
before.
always emotional.
That's right. So I'm going to put myself in this category, and it's like, are you in this category with me? No. Oh, well, you're my enemy then.
How many people bought Nike Air Jordans and then became Bulls fans? Overnight. Or how many people loved the Lakers and had never been to LA or whatever, but they were the winners, so I'm jumping on that bandwagon because I want to be a winner. I want to associate.
Want to be a winner.
I want to associate with it's like all those Manchester United fans and Liverpool fans, because they've got that where they want to hook themselves up to the winning streak. There might be some kind of vague connection there, but I think primarily if your grandparents had come from Bristol instead, you're less likely to go for that team, So the people do like that idea with sport and to get on and to have a reason then if the team stops performing quite as well, to have those reasons and to be in those discussions. And I think with I was having this discussion actually with my wife earlier that football conversation serves as a lingua franca for people that don't know what else to talk about with most other people.
Right.
So
see the game on the weekend.
It's very much that way. It's a nice, easy way because it permeates the current culture so much that most people are going to have some kind of connection or understand. And I actually feel that as a disconnection when I do talk to people because I don't follow football at all.
I haven't for years.
I have no idea on who's playing or what the big game is this weekend, and so I've got zero idea. So occasionally I'll have people, kind of, what did you think about, such and such, and it's like,
what did you think about it?
What did you think?
Because I agree with whatever you think.
So, and there's a whole culture in behind that supports that with the shows on TV that give you all the things to say at work the next day, and the drive time. Radio personalities that used to be footy players that, once again, to tell you a bit of behind the scenes of what's going on because you want to know how the sausage is made at that football club and all of these things. And but why? Because, people want to feel connected and part of something that's greater than themselves. And I think in a time where people are feeling increasingly disconnected from their local community, at a time when church attendances are reduced dramatically and at an all-time low for many denominations, and where people don't speak to their neighbours anymore, they'll find the community online. They'll find their community by watching the telly, and they'll find their familiar faces and their trusted advisors on the guys on the footy show, and that becomes a part of their life that they can neatly stow away, that they can use, like say, as a lingua franca or as a means of communication with the outside world. There's nothing wrong in any of that. It's great. People like to feel connected, but I don't think a lot of people give a lot of thought as to why they are so vested in what it is that's going on, and why people, are spending 2 or 3 hours of their day, maybe their only day off, watching boys run around in shorts and tank tops in the middle of winter.
Right. Yeah.
So, with the ball, chasing the ball.
Yeah. The power of persuasion. It's very interesting. The people that, like you said, tying themselves to the winners. I remember they did a study. I think this was in the US, and they rang up a whole bunch of people and just asked about a certain sports team, the local team in whatever city it was, and if that team had won on the weekend, the people's responses to the questions were always, "Oh, we won on the weekend. We did a great job. We've got a chance for the final." When they lost, it was like, "Oh, the team lost." Like,
they disappointed us this week.
Yeah, they're really not doing right. And it's like they're separating themselves instantly,
disassociate
from those bunch of losers.
Those wonderful supporters that leave at halftime when they're 10 goals down. Those guys. Yeah.
Do you remember when the Crows won the grand final? I don't know, 92, 93, something like that. I don't know, whatever it was.
97, 98.
Something like that, yeah. And I remember they won the game, and I went to drive to the beach afterwards, and the whole state was celebrating.
Euphoric,
It was, and I literally was trying to drive down the street on it was like 80k an hour road, and people in the middle of the road with Crows flags, just standing there, wouldn't let anyone pass them. It was like, what is going on?
There was a type of hysteria that I think was able to be developed in that time, because you just had those 3 commercial TV stations, you had maybe 2 or 3 radio stations that 80% of people would listen to, and then you had, so information was so limited, and so in the lead up to that grand final appearance, of course, you had the finals, and we're in a relatively small town here that at that time only had the one team, so everybody could feel like, oh, this might happen, and when it looked like it was happening for the first time, for instance, well, everybody jumped on the bandwagon. But all stoked by the media, like you had wherever you looked, and whoever you listened to, and whatever you watched on TV featured the Crows in our case, the Crows, and talked about their chances and what was going on, and who was going on, who rolled their ankle at training, and how many people turned up to watch them before the game, and all about training, and all of these things were newsworthy at the time. And in this day and age, I don't know if we'll ever see a situation where you'll get 1 million people genuinely euphoric and excited about an event like that. I don't think we'll ever see an Australian Cup moment. The America's Cup moment. I don't think you'll see a degree of patriotism and attention afforded to a boat race ever again, where or any sporting achievement. I don't think you. I think those times are gone.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The attention is splintered. It's no longer concentrated, and it's and people have got such a wide range of interests to involve themselves in these days that are available to them. There's so many opportunities for people to delve into those, and those people, those organisations that are feeding that stream of information to those people aren't the ones that are streaming the football on the weekend. So, but have every vested interest in getting those people's attention returned to their various platforms, and do so exceptionally well. And so I wonder what the future holds for mainstream sports, and because we've seen in our chosen sport of arm wrestling, a tremendous rise in popularity very, very quickly. I mean, even locally, to have 40 or 50 people come along to a training would have been unheard of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming a regular occurrence. Which is, so good. It's amazing, isn't it? But that is, again, if the conduit was limited, and people's attention was only on the 3 commercial TV stations on the weekend, well, arm wrestling I don't think would have risen in popularity, but people are looking for things. They're looking for. They're in the areas of their interest that they want more. Like, for instance, do you recall where you discovered? Did you discover arm wrestling online before you encountered it in person?
Yeah, I had seen it on Eurosport.
Okay.
But it was frustrating to watch. It was those fouls, a lot of starts, and I was like, I don't know what this is really. Yeah. And it was just every now and then it would be on. But then it was a few years later in the forum that I administrated for. There was a thread topic, and it was documentaries, and somebody had written in there Pulling John. It still makes me laugh, that title. I tried not to. I was like, I can't get through it. But they said Pulling John, it's about an arm wrestler, and I was like, that sounds interesting. Like, I'll just check it out. And it just happened to be on YouTube. I think it still is on YouTube. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. And it's a very simple, well-presented story and interesting. And it was like, wow, this is cool. I was really interested from that. But I hadn't sort of seen it anywhere. There's nowhere that, there was no local arm wrestling club, or I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
And then the first time I saw it in person was at the Arnold Expo. And I was like, oh, this is that thing. This is arm wrestling. And I got the first time, to get on and have a go at it. And I sort of was trying to do what John Brezink was doing, which I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing to start with. But, the fact that everyone was nice and friendly and it was like, this is fun. Like, it was cool. And then when I came back to Adelaide, obviously, they'd given me Tim's details, who was running the club here in SA at that time, and I hadn't followed it up because he lives like an hour away from me, and it was like, I don't want to drive out there. Like, what is this? But then, obviously, when Devon Larratt was coming through, and I had seen a lot of him on YouTube.
So, in between your experience there in Melbourne, you thought, suss this out, and you came across Devon Larratt in that process.
I don't think I'd specifically searched. I think how YouTube recommends stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, what's this? Or because I'd watched Pulling John, there was like, oh, here's John Brezink versus somebody. Here's John Brezink versus somebody else, and you eventually will find Devon Larratt. No matter which way you go,
all roads lead to Devon.
That's right. Yeah. And so I'd watched a bunch of his stuff as well, and enjoyed it, and then it was like, on that Facebook group, they'd put a post, he's coming to Adelaide, he's doing a seminar, and I'm like, I've got to go. Like, I've got to, the world champion, you'll never get this opportunity again.
Indeed.
And of course it was 3 hours away or something. middle of nowhere. But yeah, so the opportunity to do that. But yeah, you're right. If you were relying on Channel 7, 9 or 10 to put that out, it's like, good luck, you're never going to see it.
Yeah.
It's too fringe.
And you think about just are you coming across that piece of content on YouTube? How many more hours of YouTube content have been made about arm wrestling as a result of you just seeing that 1 hour and a half? Like, you've more than paid back to YouTube with the amount of arm wrestling content that you've created over the last year or two. So, it's quite remarkable, and you can only imagine how many other people as a result have done the same. So the exponential effect of seeing one piece of content, which, let's face it, if this was 10 or 15 years ago, you wouldn't have come across that. You would have been, probably watching the football on Saturday or whatever, and not been able to, experience this whole new chapter in your world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the UFC was like that.
Yeah.
That was a new thing for me. Like, it was just, I saw it at the video shop.
Well, and it was also probably a classic example as to how the mainstream can kill a sport. You know, so still at that time, to watch UFC, you needed to go to the video store and get the video. And when you got the video, it was months after the event had actually happened.
Yeah.
So you had to, basically, you were just going to watch, you know, fighting and in a different genre, no rules fighting. It was the attraction. There was no newsworthiness to it. It's not like, can you imagine now watching the UFC event from 3 months ago and eagerly anticipating it? You know, it just but that's exactly what we were doing then.
Exactly, yeah, you're right. And we were discussing that before we started about oversaturation in the market. And yeah, they rose so fast, the UFC, and it was such an amazing thing to see. I had jumped in at UFC number 40. That was the first one I saw. Which was Tito Ortiz, Ken Shamrock. That was the main event.
Yep.
And at that time, they were banned in America. Like, they couldn't get on pay-per-view. They were in the dark ages, is what they called it.
Yeah, human cockfighting.
Yeah, that's right. Who was it? It was one of the leading politicians, one of the Republican guys.
Newt Gingrich or something?
Yeah, something like that. But it was he was pushing against, like, the legalization of it.
Yeah.
It's not Al Gore. Brain's like, Al Gore? I'm like, no.
That's climate change guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It was the guy who ran for president against Barack Obama and lost.
John McCain.
John McCain, yes. It was him, yeah. It was him. So he was preventing the sport from being legalized. So they were in those dark ages. So it was months before you would see the DVD come out with the latest fight. But the first time I saw it, the very first fight, I was like, what? I jumped off the couch. I literally jumped off the couch. It was like, what is this? This is amazing. It was not the first fight I saw. Tiki goes in versus Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler lands a leg kick and then knocks Tiki down, and then runs up and punches him in the head as he's laying on the ground and gets the win. I was like, what? I was like, this is incredible. That fight card, I think it was lucky for me that I picked that one, because there were so many amazing fights that did brutally end. I was like, this is the best thing ever. And of course, I've gone straight back. Is there any more? Like, where's the rest of them? I want to see all of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was DVDs. You couldn't stream it. You couldn't download it. There was nothing on it. There was no websites about it.
No.
UFC, I don't think they even had a website at that point.
No.
Yeah, I remember because it was UFC 66 had taken place, which was a rematch between Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know who'd won. And it was a Sunday afternoon. I remember I was sitting on my phone, which was different styles of phones back then.
It was a dumb phone, not a smartphone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was like, you're trying to load the internet. It takes 10 minutes to load one page.
Yeah.
And it was like UFC 66. And it took me about an hour to be able to find what had actually happened. And that's the level that it was at. But they obviously hired Mark Ratner. They got the sport legalized and got it back on pay-per-view. They built a professional organization. They did everything the right way, and they pushed it to the point where it was, one of the fastest growing sports in the world. And now suddenly everyone's talking about it.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, great, yeah, cool. And because I'd been in at the start, I knew what was, and it's all, jiu-jitsu. Never heard of it before. What are they doing? Leg locks and arm bars and rear naked choke and but you're learning it because there was so much depth to it.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, how did he set that up?
And you're watching it as the sport's evolving as well.
Yeah.
So you went through that ground and pound phase, and then the jiu-jitsu phase, then the Mark Coleman phase, the ground and pound, and then the leg kick started to become a big thing, and then so you have these phases as the sport develops as well,
right.
especially from such an early stage.
Yeah, that's right. But the events were like once every 3 months at that time. And it was something really special, and I knew every fighter that was on the card, there'd always be 10 matches. I knew all 20 guys, and it's like, you'd organize with your friends, like somebody would know how to get it on pay-per-view, that have the right station, that have Foxtel, and then they'd have something else, and then they'd be able to order the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how hard it was.
It was like a speakeasy. Yeah.
It's like you had to do three things to be able to. You had to have a certain package with Foxtel,
like
pay TV, and then you have a certain, I don't know, something else, and then you could order the pay-per-view.
Then you could do it. Yeah.
But it would be like, okay, we're going to meet at my house. There's
everybody chip in.
Yeah, and there'd be 50 people there, and there'd be people coming out with sandwiches, and there'd be burger rings and chips, and people handing out the fight card to each other. Oh, who do you think? And it was a big exciting thing. And then obviously the fights would take place, and everyone's glued to the TV and cheering, and it was.
The TV would be 64 centimeters.
That's right, exactly. And the growth from there, I mean, they started having more regular events. They started having the Ultimate Fighter TV show more regularly. And I think
that really propelled the sport into the mainstream.
Absolutely.
Consciousness of the mainstream.
Yeah. So I think the point they're at the moment, and I remember thinking, oh man, wouldn't it be amazing if they had like MMA fights on every weekend? Now they do, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah.
I don't know who's fighting. I can't keep up.
It can be difficult to keep up. And then you feel like, oh, well, I'm disconnected now because now I don't know all the names, and I don't know who's the up and coming, and I don't know who's the threat, and I don't know what's going on to the same extent. So, but I think in some way, shape or form, I can see that there is a cascading to the size and the quality of events. And so you have your main event UFCs, where Bruce Buffer turns up, and Dana's going to be there, and there's a huge sold out crowd, and there's 20,000 people there, and then you have the
Fight night cards,
and so like that is kind of taking the place of the reserves. It's like the the feeder series, because you don't really have that feeder series kind of going straight into UFC. So I think that's probably what they're trying to go for, and then filling out their events calendar with these lead-in fights, hoping to build up another Sean O'Malley or something along those lines.
Absolutely. But they're having. I mean, if you wanted to watch all the UFC content every week,
it's very difficult.
It's like 30 hours of content.
Yeah, I almost feel like the best way to keep in contact with UFC is via Instagram, because you see the highlights. They'll push to you what's going on, and it's from my perspective, because jumping on to get news from UFC can sometimes be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, their site is not very well structured.
Yeah, they could do better, imagine. They should take some tips from MattConnolly.com.
From MMAJunkie.com, which is one I'm administrator for.
Yes.
It's a very simple layout. It just tells you the results of the fights, the upcoming fights, interviews with guys. This is, it's very structured like a news website would be. Any news website, that's what this is. Versus UFC, it's like, it's scattered all over the place. It's like, who is, you want to see who the top 10 guys are? Okay. What's the next fights coming up? Oh, that's in another bit. And look at the store.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, pop up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And
buy some merch.
Yeah, it's very strange. But it was an amazing maybe 4 years where it was like, it's on its way, and now it's got there. It's there. It's a big established thing, and it's made it. They came to Australia. I remember the first time they came to Sydney, and I think it was UFC 127, and everyone was there. Everyone was there from the very first bell. Like the whole place was full. It was in Sydney, some arena. I can't remember. Not the O2 Arena. That's in England. It was one of the arenas in Sydney, but it was like 20,000 people, and the whole place was packed.
Yeah.
And when the lights came down, and they turned the lights out on the audience, and they put white lights on the actual octagon for each match, because that's where you're focused. when that happened for the first time, everyone cheered and clapped and yes. And the first flight was a couple of unknown people. I was like, I don't even know who these people are, but this is amazing. We're here, everyone's here, we're all part of it. We're all UFC fans, you know. It's like you've got your different shirt, like a Tito shirt, you know. Everyone's got these things. Oh, I'm into it. But because it's happening so often now, it's like, oh, did you see the UFC? Oh, was there one? Oh God, I didn't even see it. You know, I didn't even know what was happening because there's so much. And it's like you've got Dana White's Contender Series. You've got the Ultimate Fighter Brazil, Ultimate Fighter this. You've got your Fight Night cards. Then you got your pay-per-view cards. Then you got the other thing. And it's like, it's too much. I can't keep up.
Yeah, it can be hard. And are they just trying to fill the gaps now? Are they trying to eat into the market share of what's left of the other combat sports, the attention that's there? Are they now trying to seep their way into competition with the football codes, or what's their agenda? Because I think it can also be, from their perspective, difficult to understand where this trajectory ends, because it's been such a rocket ship over the last 5-10 years. That, you know, can they push through, and can they be that sport that, you know, is the go-to every weekend for people? And maybe it can be. Maybe well, certainly in terms of the combat sports, it's the one that's going to do it. If any of the combat sports are going to, and I think also what's quite telling is the audiences for mainstream sports is trailing away quite dramatically. NASCAR and gridiron baseball. In America have dropped dramatically in viewer numbers, attention, advertising. So the money's, you know, seeping out of those sports in mainstream in the US at the moment. In Australia, the big sports still prevail in the same way, but I think cricket's been hurt by the growth of football over the last 30 years.
Yeah.
As being the mainstay, and football now eats into most of summer as well, or most of that airtime that cricket had to itself, and now cricket shares its airtime with A-League and emerging sports, and it doesn't probably get anywhere near the same level of attention at a junior level as it once did. So, you know, I'd say at the moment, you know, cricket's on the endangered list if something doesn't happen, and that's against a backdrop of 2020 cricket and the increase in advertising revenue that the sport's received as a result of that. It's not really translating in greater participation and greater viewer numbers, and in any other form of the game apart from 2020, we've seen the viewer numbers once again drop off dramatically. Yeah. So football's seemingly maintaining it, but you see this right across as a trend largely across the world. So
I think two points. One on 2020 first. I don't like 2020. I don't like it. Yeah. I think it diminishes the value of scoring big runs. Like if you're going for a 6 or a 4 every single ball, and let's say you get 2 4s that over, and it's like, oh, you only got 2 4s that over, and then the next one it's like you get 1 6. It's like, oh, you only get 1 6. If that happened in a 50 over game, that'd be amazing that had happened.
Yeah, I actually wonder what happens to cricket when 2020 fails, because cricket as a format, as a sport, as a spectator sport has failed dramatically over the last 50 years. You know, from when you look at the numbers of people that would have attended a test match, the Bodyline series, for instance, where the ovals were filled to the brim. Fast forward to last season, you go to the SCG and go to the first test, and you have your pick of where you want to sit. So test cricket has failed as a spectator sport. One-day cricket was the remedy and served the purpose and reinvigorated, and then that just dropped away over a period of time. Maybe cricket just sucks.
I think
And until they're playing like 3 over games against each other and scoring 300 runs, I'm not going to be interested.
No,
maybe that's the lesson learned. Maybe there's not a format of cricket short enough to save it.
It feels what you were talking about earlier when your viewership and your audience was limited to Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10 in Australia. Well, you had Channel 2 and SBS, but no one watched those. Yeah. Those things, it's like, okay, you want to watch TV? You got 3 choices.
Yeah.
Channel 7's playing news. I don't want to watch
that. Channel 7's got the tennis. More, right.
Yeah,
wants that.
Yeah, he's like, or something, whatever. And it's like Channel 10, I don't know what's going on there, but they've got Jerry Springer again.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but you can, Channel 9, okay, and you're watching the test match, and it's 5 days, and you might watch for a couple of hours. That's what I did actually really enjoy this when I was, maybe 12, 13 years old, because it was spread out over so long. You'd watch for a bit, and you go and do something. You go to the beach with your friends, and then you'd get the updates. Oh, what did I miss? Oh, well, he got out. Oh, did he get his 100? Everybody knew. Yeah. Everybody knew what had happened because that was the only thing to watch.
Yeah, yes.
But when you take away, when you add option and choice, and people go, I don't have to watch only that. I wouldn't have watched that. If I had what we have now, where you have an unlimited amount of stuff. I mean, I don't know what YouTube's stats are, but the per minute, the amount of content that's being uploaded, it's I don't know, it's 600 hours per minute or something. So it's 6 million hours or something. I don't know. It's some astronomical number. I underestimated that. It's ridiculously high. Like that's the amount of stuff going up constantly.
Yeah.
That you can watch for free at any time on your phone, in your bedroom, or on the couch, or while you're driving. No, but it whatever niche that you like. If you like Tiddlywink, I'm sure there's a league.
and radio suffered the same thing through podcasting. It's really rare for my friends to listen to radio over and above listening to a podcast. There's definitely a feeling that, and especially with the way that commercial television's been structured, the intermissions, the constant interruption of the commercials, although you get that on YouTube as well, but you get the constant interruptions. Your attention's always being drawn in the direction that they want it to go in. And the broadcaster. Whereas you can say what you like about some of these platforms, and maybe they're definitely censorious to some degrees, but the reality is you've still got the choice of lots of stuff, and not just lots of stuff, but lots of things in that narrow niche that you're actually really interested in, diving deeply into. And there's never been a time in history where people have had that opportunity to disseminate what content that they consume, and then be able to be so narrowly focused. You'd have traditionally, the magic formula was there'd be a game show before the news, and then there'd be a current affairs show, then there'd be a soapy, and then there'd be a TV series or a mini series, and then at 10 o'clock, at 10:30, there'd be the news again, and that's somebody decided that's how we would watch TV. That's where we would spend our time and spend our attention.
Sunday night, 8:30 was the movie.
Yeah, and you might be really interested in something, and it might be history, and so there's a documentary on some history, and although it's programmed to be there for an hour, there's basically 37 minutes of stuff that you actually wanted to watch, but it might just be a very narrow part of what you wanted to see, and you hung in there for that hour just to see this 3-minute bit that you couldn't go back and watch again.
Yeah, that's right.
Hoping to
you missed it. You missed it.
Yeah, so they had you had you ransomed. You had to hang in there. You had to watch all those ads. You had to get through it all, and then you watch it, and then that would be that, and then a lot of people out of habit would just leave the TV on the same channel for the rest of the night. Yep. And so then that's how that world was, and we now fortunately live in a world where people have got access to most of whatever their interest might be. They can certainly delve deeply into it. So, and that's one of the wonderful things of the rising world of and the long tail of influencers and people like yourself that are able to have a platform where they can say something and somebody might even say something back, and you build. Through great communication, you build a community over time, and that this becomes an opportunity for you to share your interests and passions with people, and people do the same back with you. They might not have a YouTube channel, they might just have an account, but then they're sending you a super chat, they're commenting, they're jumping on board, they're liking a post, they're becoming actively engaged and involved, and that type of interaction you could never tell Channel 9 when their TV show sucked. But people can tell Matt Connolly, I think your opinion on, refereeing in arm wrestling is crap.
Yeah.
And you can go, well,
So who do you think you are? Oh, you're the guy who wrote the rules. Sorry.
That guy again. You can, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
that actually did happen to you as well. You were having a big whinge about the rules and you just happened.
It's Bob Brown, the guy who wrote the rules.
And Bob Brown comments, "No, I love the rules," or something along those lines. Yeah. The rules are great, and it's like, well,
oh god, that's him.
Okay, yeah, I like him now too. Yeah,
right, yeah. I couldn't believe that. That was insane. I mean, it was only because it was Ryan's channel that we were on together doing one of the Deep End podcasts, and I sort of forget and sometimes like how everyone in the arm wrestling world is going to jump in there, like of the highest level people, and I'm thinking it's just us chatting like we chat here. You know?
No one's watching.
Yeah, it's like and then I've looked and gone, oh what? Oh my god, there's Neil Pickups in the chat, and Bob Brown is here, and Cobra Rhodes, and like Devin Larratt, and it's like what? Wow, and I was like, I can't even. They're watching me. This is so weird. It was amazing. But you're right in terms of those grassroots people that support it, because on every single video, if you any arm wrestling video that's out there on YouTube, you'll find the Drew24 with writing YouTube algorithm boosting comment. You'll find Fox 8 Ball. You'll find Marcus Johnson. Like the same guys on everything. They're in every live chat. They're huge fans, and they're deeply committed and supportive of the growth of the sport. Yeah, those are the people that make things happen. Like that, they are your core audience, and it's not that they have to do anything, but the fact that they're interested and invested and want you to do well because they love the sport. That's what keeps you going, because it's like, here, we've started the live chat. And here they are, you know? They've come here, the guys, the ones who were always around.
So that's your crew, almost.
It is. They're always in Jake Ward, the Aussie Arm Wrestlers chat, and it's a little community, like you said, that tribe mentality. So that they've created their group. I might have to bleep this out later, but their group is called the Unfuckables. So which is a great group name, but every single time you see it, and Marcus Johnson puts massive super chats in every single time they go live, simply because he loves the fact that people are doing something in a sport that he really enjoys. And it's like, I want you to keep doing this. So here is some support. Which is incredible. This
is amazing. Yeah,
you would never think they would. Like you said, Channel 9, not going to happen. Like the footy show, they don't care if you ring in. How did he get it? Cut him off.
Yeah, exactly. It's whereas before, the consumer wasn't paying for the content and anything other than their attention to whatever ads might appear, and that was the arbitrage. The advertiser had to be pretty confident that people that wanted to buy soap powder were going to be watching at 4:30 on a Tuesday afternoon, but now we've actually got consumer-driven content where people are literally saying, here's some money because I want you to do, I like this and I want more of it and I want to encourage you to do more of it.
Yeah.
And it's like the democratization of attention.
It is, I think you're right. And in a way it's like nostalgia looking back at those times when everybody knew the movie that was on last night.
Yes.
Everybody had watched it, And
Twin Peaks.
Did you see the movie? Oh, you didn't. You didn't see it. What were you doing?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, you missed out. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or the newest Simpsons episode that was on Friday night or whatever it was. And that's all you're talking about. That's so weird to think that. I don't know how it would be now. Nobody would like it's. Oh, did you watch the thing? The what? Like I haven't watched TV for years. Like it's I've got screens like in my house, but they're not plugged into the aerial. Like they just I cast stuff to it. Like but I haven't watched TV. I haven't my radio in my car. It's not even. I've never tuned it. Like it's just if I turn it on, it's static. But to think those times when it was. Everyone was listening to the same thing. Everyone was getting the same information. And now that's never probably going to happen again.
Yeah. And there was something kind of homogenous and comforting and communal about some of those elements. But in hindsight, they were kind of they were all of those things, but in a pseudo kind of way. If you want deep community, you probably want community with people that are. Share your interests, desires, that are going to be champions for your cause and support you and the like, and that which you can't get without the intimacy of one-to-one communication, which is what social media does afford the viewer, is that potential. I've quite regularly seen one of your podcasts jump up and just watch for 10 or 15 minutes, and you talked about something, I'll just put a little
give
thing
you a
in.
shout out.
Then I got this. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So and then we got the algorithm boosting comment coming after, and I get the even more views at section. So so and you just jump in, and it's like, in what world? If Kevin Crease was reading the news on Channel 9 and all of a sudden you jumped into content, that's bullshit. I was there, I didn't see that. Well, that obviously wouldn't even happen these days. But it's just it's unimaginable.
Yeah.
So those times are long gone. They ain't coming back, and I think all the better, because I do see a lot of those instruments that were used in the post-war period as leading to the degradation of the morality of society, and also the quick levelling, and I think the diminishment of people's quality of life as well. There's a series of things that became effective in the post-war period that television, radio, its precursor, but then television, same people, same methodology, much more powerful.
Print journalism, like newspapers.
Well, every situation where there's a reason why everybody owns a newspaper was worked out to be one of the richest people in town, who ended up being one of the most influential. It wasn't one way or the other. They started off rich and influential and bought newspapers, or they started newspapers and became rich and influential. And normally they did so in an environment where there might have been one competitor or none. So there was a very much a homogenous delivery of information to the population for a very long time, and now that's not there, and now they say, we see division emerging, and we see these things, and that's mainly because there are still in the legacy media, and there is still very much an effort to portray certain narratives and to put information across in a certain way, where independent investigation might suggest that that's not entirely the truth, even, or certainly it's a portrayal with a spin, to the extent that it's hard to trust it as being reliable.
Yeah.
So we live in troubled times.
Interesting times. Do you think it's better now or worse?
I think it's undoubtedly better, and in that freedom of information, freedom of speech tends to lead to a greater contest of ideas, and if the previous paradigm is being challenged by new ideas, then that's no bad thing. If it's being challenged in violence, it must mean that that's a last port of reserve. Can't think of the phrase, but
Sorry.
yeah,
I get what you mean.
yeah,
Yeah.
the last one.
The last emperor.
That has no clothes. If you can if you can circumvent violence, wonderful. But it'll eventually lead that way. If you can't have the free and uninhibited expression of ideas and concepts, because it's in that area where we knuckle down and find out, well, are we going to be working in alignment with truth, and are we going to be working in alignment with our the best of intentions, or are there other agendas at play? And those things are prickly pears to sort through, and people need the time in order to digest those concepts and ideas. And people often have firmly held views where perhaps based on pretty average information, and so a good exchange of ideas, free speech affords people the idea to test their thinking and either have it validated or perhaps
Challenge.
Challenged, and that gives pause to reconsideration. Ultimately that's what we need more of, and unfortunately society's moving. Well, those people that are spending lots of money in society, the big end of town, are seemingly going in the other direction with it. So, so things are better, and I think because of that reason alone, that we still have that opportunity to. We've got the information and the freedom to still talk about these things that are going to shape how society will be in the next 20, 30, 100 years. So I think that that's undoubtedly a very good thing. Is it a bad thing that we're perhaps not as unified? I don't even think it's a bad thing, because I think that humans, talking to that tribal element, are much more tribal, and I think when human populations appear to be decentralised but still well organised, where they have a high morality and a low level of crime, where they're in control of sex and violence, they tend to prosper and do exceptionally well. And so my feeling is more of that is good, and less centralisation, less control in the hands of the few, less concentration of population, I think is also very good. I think that experiment's borne out that the more people that you have in the one spot, the more likely there is to be crime and other issues. So social issues. There's lessons that society needs to continue to learn, and never be in acceptance of what we have right now is the way it's always going to be. Definitely a good thing.
Two more topics I wanted to talk about. I know you got to get going. I know you've looked at the clock. I saw you do it. I'll be quick. You mentioned earlier church attendance down. Are you seeing that in terms of other people are finding different ideas through other sources of media, and then they're challenging the ideas that are being taught in religions, and then or do you think it's bad in terms of that people are losing that community aspect as much?
I don't think people are challenging religion, because I don't think people are even taking the time to understand religion. So the many of the lay critics of Christianity don't seemingly understand it at its core. So I think that now what we've, and this is another post-war event, where people feel like the fabric of society is strong enough that it doesn't require continual reinforcement. And the continual reinforcement and nourishment of and strengthening of the fabric of society comes from reminding ourselves as to why we have the society that we have in the first place. And because we've got concepts of rule of law, we've got freedom of self, sovereignty of the individual. These concepts are what they used to call inalienable rights. These are worthwhile things. We know that when societies embrace these concepts, that they are prosperous. We know that because there's about 800 million people in the Western world, and of the 800 million people, that's something in the vicinity of 90% of the world's wealth is tied up in that. So naturally, there's some things that occur now. As soon as I say that, I understand that some people will say that that's a consequence of colonial conquest and the like. And I would say in some small part, but I'll also say that in every situation, almost every situation where the British government was involved in a colonial conquest, they also almost made immediate measures in order to institute self-governing in almost as soon as practicably, or started down that path as soon as the commercial interest kind of was balanced against the social. And almost always those social issues were best addressed by the church, and whether they were by the church, by Christians, I'll say that, because it was often reformist Anglicans, Wesleyans, who and if it wasn't for a handful of Anglicans, you would not have had the end of slavery, for instance. So the same people that are blamed for colonialisation of the world and who are currently being smeared as the culture that's currently being smeared as the perpetrator of colonialism and slavery and these terrible things is also the only power that was benefiting from it that ever stopped it. A practice of, as long as we'd known humanity to have existed, it seems. And so instead of being proud of that as an achievement, are proud of the awareness, and that comes about because of the recognition of the self, the sovereignty of the self, the self-determination of the individual, and their right to exercise free will. And to do that within a framework of a society that is embracing and tolerant of them and gives them every opportunity to succeed without encumbering them because of their class or identity. That's the kind of that's the idea. That's the ethic, and it's a very Christian ethic. It's an unmistakably Christian ethic. So I think attendances at churches drop. Will continue to kind of fade, and I think in some part that's because people are also in a suburban context. There's no necessity for community in the same way because church was once that. It was that social interaction with your community. That's why you get dressed up, you go along, and then the rest of the day was scones and biscuits and having a chat, and the women would go off in one direction, the men would go do something else, and the kids would go to Sunday school, and it was just a nice social event. Whereas people are now jumping onto YouTube and watching arm wrestling videos instead, so they're finding their community there, and sometimes even a super chat if they're lucky. So so there's all of these. So I don't think it'll come, but I think what needs to happen is a renewal or a there needs to be another mechanism by which society can be continually, or people within society can be continually reminded that this connection to the fundamentals that underpin the prosperous society that they live in, they need to be addressed, and they need to be acknowledged, and they need to understand that they benefit from having that knowledge. So how does that happen in a secular world? Well, I don't know exactly, but I do know that the further away that we get from that, the worse things tend to get. And one of the reasons why traditional religions have perhaps waned in influence is because, and when that happens, what you tend to see is that people still want to be religious about things, and so they shift their attention to ideological pursuits, for instance, and so that becomes their new religion. Or football, that becomes their new tribe. That becomes their new religion. That's what they do every week. They'll watch the footy show at 9 p.m. and on the Thursday, and then they're going to be watching the pre-game from and that becomes their schedule, their routine, their ritual. And so, but in some ways that can be fulfilling, but it's not fulfilling in the same way of understanding maybe your relationship with the creator of the cosmos.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, if you take away the supernatural elements of any religion, it's basically a set of rules. Like, we think that if you follow these rules, you'll live a happy life. So we put these rules together. If you follow them, I guess in the Christianity, you got the 10 Commandments. Very simple rules. Don't kill anybody. Don't whatever. Then you should live a happy life. And it's like, I think a lot of people get that mixed with the message of the gods and the supernatural side of it. And it's like, but if you strip it back and just separate that, what they're trying to say is, if you live like this, then you should you'd probably do quite well. That's why they've structured it in this way. And it's the same with the Muslim religion. And it's like, okay, we don't eat pork. Well, why is that? Because at some point, hundreds of years ago, they had people eating plagued meat and were dying. And it was like, we need to stop this, make it part of the religion.
Yeah.
Don't eat it.
What's that thing when you don't cook pork? You can't have it in Australia, but it's
halal.
No. When you can't, if you don't cook meat all the way through, then you get a bug or you get
salmonella or something.
Not salmonella. No, it's like it. But there is so if you don't cook it all the way through, game meat is similar. If you don't cook the bacteria, and that can make you very ill, and it's just much more prevalent with pork. There's some basic fundamental principles there that get shared, and as we were talking earlier about the precession of the equinox, and how long did it take people to notice just that the Earth was turning on its axis by 1 degree a year or whatever, and then how long did it take them to work out that they were going around the entire solar system every 12,000 years or whatever, so they. 25,000, 24,000 years or whatever it is. It's like how long did it take them? But how long did it take them to distill the stories that are necessary to live a good life in such a way that would transcend languages over millennia and still resonated in languages that hadn't even been written yet or created yet, thousands of years into the future? And how do you get those parables? How do you get those stories? How do you interweave the narratives in such a way that people will understand that until the end of time? And then how do you weave that together in some kind of compelling way that brings about that compels people to return to it? And to the current canon is what it is, and over the years, there's obviously more to it, but there was also some wisdom in producing something like the King James Bible, for instance. There's some wisdom in iterating something down and refining it and putting it into a format that's in the lingua franca that's understandable. And that becomes then relevant and renewed. I think that we are at a point where we've got so many people that want to see hard evidence of stuff. They seemingly have this scientific kind of view of things without understanding that here's the science on this. We don't know when these stories and tales were written. We don't even know who wrote them. But what we do know is that when put together, we've now got a blueprint, and that blueprint can be extrapolated in any number of ways. But you've got this blueprint, and it seems that when you base your society on that blueprint,
things work better. Now, there's some science, it's proven. We've got tons of evidence to suggest that this is the case. We've got lots of evidence to suggest that when we move away from morality, like the people talk about, the corruption of the popes over the centuries, and whenever the popes were corrupt, guess what? So was diminished the prestige of the church. You've got people that you'll say, the clergy have wronged certain people, and no doubt these things have happened and over time, but it doesn't diminish. The church says that those people did those things wrong. Like when I say the church, the teachings say that they might have been protected by the institution of the church. The perpetrators might have been, and so the victim's full voice may not have been heard, but the reason why the victim knows something wasn't right and why they are a victim is because of the teachings of the church, because they've got a clear idea as to what is right and what is wrong. So that's all of these things are worth preserving, and I'm sure this isn't the first era of challenges that that Christianity has met, and but it's the one where we could find, because of the proliferation of church construction, so the proliferation of churches is diminished. So we went through a period where over the course of 150 years, thousands and thousands and thousands of churches have been built across this country. We're not going to see that again. So we're not going to see the constant reminders. As a matter of fact, we're seeing a lot of these properties being sold and in some cases knocked down and gone forever, and something new in their place. But maybe the answer is in part social media as well, where people can become engaged, they can find their community, they can find the people who have a belief system that they can heart themselves with, and work towards a better life. And if that's in alignment with the teachings, then who's anybody to say that it's a bad thing because then they're not praying a certain way or whatever it might be. But
yeah. Well, like I was saying, I think you've got is it a set of rules that we think if you follow these rules that you'll have a happy life, and another set of rules, and you can take parts of those that apply to yourself and whatever. But I think reasonably simple things to follow in terms of don't kill someone. But okay, I can do that. But I do see the decline in the religion following. Definitely over the last, I'm 40, but it's like even the last 15 years, I think since the internet became really big and people had that extra information, and they were, I do actually like the fact that, like you said, with freedom of exchange of ideas, people challenging these ideas, people saying, well, hang on, you're saying this, let me look at the science behind that, or let me look at, so there is more work being done as to trying to find answers, which I think is great. But at the core element is like, well, no, that's not really what we're trying to aim for here. It's like, you've got all that side of it, and in terms of the universe and quantum physics and all the rest of it, it's still a very much unknown quantity, and it's like, I find it fascinating, and the fact that these things don't follow the rules of physics is incredible. But if you're looking for, just prove that there was a God, and prove that this happened, and prove that it's like, that's, you're going like, no, it's not about that. It's about
that's right.
So that's always been interesting. But final topic. I found that talking to a lot of guys through the gym that I'm working in at the moment, I'd like to get your thoughts on this, because there's always, when somebody is going through a really tough time, and they go through a downward spiral, and maybe they do something really stupid, or they do, maybe they commit suicide, or something ends up quite badly. And for men, it feels like there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, just reach out and talk to us, and we're here if you need to talk, and we've got support." And I don't think that's effective. I wouldn't want to talk.
Yeah.
I'm not a talk. I'm not. It's for me. It's like going to arm wrestling and meeting the guys and feeling good and having that camaraderie and feeling part of something, and that's where I can find joy and happiness and community and spirit and purpose, as opposed to if I'm struggling, I'm not picking up the phone and ringing and admitting. It feels like an anti-masculine thing to do. You know what I mean? To reach out, and I get it. It's like, oh, it's okay. Everyone struggles, and it's like you're allowed to be in difficult times. And if talk therapy helps people, then that's fantastic. But I think for a large majority of guys, I don't think that's the right answer.
I think there's a superficiality associated with these grand gestures, and I'll reach out to me anytime, I'm there for you, bro, and all of this type of thing. And I think men do suffer in silence probably better, because there's a distillation process associated with struggling with your own anguishes that I think is strengthening. And whereas it seems to automatically be felt that is a bad thing, that you'll try and work through it yourself. Now, it's obviously a bad thing when people can't find any answers within that, and don't find any solace and feel like that's that's definitely bad. And so I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that there's people that there's men do process these things differently. They will tend to shut down, and that's not a bad thing. And I think what there maybe needs to be is more education for men on how to deal with these things in a masculine way. And if you are going to suffer in silence, and you are going to go through this, and you are going to work it through yourself, well, let's give you the tools to do that. Let's not tell you that you're less of a man for not sharing, or that it's okay to be embarrassed and talk about these things. You know what? A lot of men don't feel like that's okay. A lot of men do feel embarrassed and won't do it. And it doesn't matter how much you tell them it's going to be okay, they're not going to do it. It doesn't matter how many.
It's against your
superficial
core of who you are. You can't admit. I don't know. For me, it's like you can't admit weakness or defeat, or like that you've got an issue you can't beat, and it's like it just.
I think it's like, say, talk therapy. Oh, look, it's almost like I just want to talk somebody off the ledge. That's the type of thing. And if somebody's already there, it's almost too far gone anyway. I mean,
where were you before then?
Yeah, exactly. All right. So my feeling is that we need to equip young men with better tools to be able to deal with those things on their own, rather than superimposing on them an expectation to reach out. I think that'd be good, because I also feel like it's empowering for men to overcome those things. Now, I'll also say that, I think after a period of the way I'm just going to say myself, you have moments of deep contemplation. I certainly do. And then if you do have someone that you can talk to, it's normally talking about strategy as to how to resolve whatever situation you're in, rather than how you feel about that situation, which is what this is probably the disconnect in popular culture around this particular issue is, men should talk about their feelings. Men should talk about how to fix these things amongst each other and support themselves in fixing these things, because really there's nothing out there that's so bad that you can't fix it, or that you can't ask for forgiveness for what you've done. Obviously, there are a few exceptions to that, which, but for almost everything else, you have the ability to make amends. You have the ability to fix it. You have the ability to continue to be in service. Now, if this means that a relationship is breaking down as a result of whatever, you are not your relationships. You are not the people that you spend time with. You are yourself. And your mission there is then to find, if these people don't want me to be in service of them in this relationship any longer, then my job is to be in service of something. Because when you're in service of something and of something greater than yourself, then things tend to work out. Now, if you're in service, for instance, to your partner, well, that's probably because you're demonstrating to your partner that you want to be in service of a family, and to what extent that you're willing to make certain sacrifices, personal sacrifices, to move towards that goal of having a strong family environment. So this is what you're doing. So now, if that changes, then you might be in the mode of trying to establish a family with someone, and then that relationship ends. It means it means at that point those aspirations stop, but the wanting to be of service should not, because it's through that the next opportunity in relationship or life or business or whatever it might be will pop up. So if that's like yourself, you're very much in service to arm wrestling, the arm wrestling club. You'll be the first person there. You're opening up, you're bringing the tables, you're setting things up, you're welcoming new members, you're organising super matches, you're setting up the camera. You're in service of the club, and anybody who's in observance of that would say, well, there's a leader. There's somebody who's organised, there's somebody who's diligent, there's somebody who has purpose, there's somebody who is serving other people selfishly. There's a gaggle, and that's just a few, but that's a gaggle of qualities that are admirable. And anybody who's in observance of that, if they're another young man, they might see an example. If they're a woman, and they might see a potential partner or husband or whatever. But there is... In being in service, it's very difficult to be in deep depression.
Yeah. Are you getting fulfillment from the actions that you're taking to help benefit other people as well as yourself?
Yeah. So on that matter of depression, production's the source of morale more often than not. There might be physiological things, but I would suggest that most people that have been diagnosed with depression have been diagnosed, potentially that giving them license to feel like they don't need to do anything else other than what they've been doing. If you're feeling depressed, there's normally a good reason for it, and it's almost always because you feel like you're falling short of your own potential. And here's the thing. You should always feel like you're falling short of your potential. Sometimes you just feel like you're falling further short than what you should. But you should always feel like you're falling short of your potential, because that's where your drive comes from. The knowing that you could actually do a little bit better.
Yeah.
The knowing that, if given another chance, you could do something greater. So, there's one, I think men should be better equipped with the tools to deal with those things in silence. Two, those people that want to talk about it, great, need those reference points, but seldom are they're bros on Facebook or whatever. Give them a shout, call me anytime, have a chat, whatever. That type of superficialness, I don't think actually is very helpful at all. And thirdly, I think those people that are suffering in that way, a level of introspection is often required, because I feel that in almost all circumstances where people are suffering in that way, it's because of a diminishment of purpose in their lives. And that's not to say that, and it definitely is not to say they're bad people or whatever. Sometimes people just get off track, and not only that, but don't have the tools to be able to self-identify that they've come off track, and then don't know where they came off the tracks, and so don't know how to fix their situation, and now feel even more depressed because they're in a shitty situation that they created, and they don't know how they created it, and they don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
So, these things, I think there needs to be a better strategy than that which is popularised by government agencies and mainstream media alike, and raising charity money for these things and events don't seem to be helping. By the way, I don't want to be mean about this, but It doesn't matter how much money you're going to be raising for the black dog appeal or whatever it might be that's out there. It ain't helping. It isn't helping because from what I can discern, there's not much that's going on that's any different. The situation's getting worse. The more money that's being raised is not reducing the numbers of suicides. And so, a new strategy is required.
It feels like they've taken a very matriarchal system of support and tried to apply it to a masculine side of things. And it's like talk therapy and we're counseling, and it's like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want, that's not, no. I would prefer to feel 10 times worse than to talk about that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, embarrassment, shame, and an inability to be able to solve your situation are the things that will lead to depression.
Yeah.
Or lead to you feeling that way. That's just, and so, that you've got to look at it in that prism. Can this person remedy whatever it is? And it might be a series of things that have happened, but there could be one core reason that for all of that as well. So these things are often multifaceted in the way that they impact your life, but you can normally identify a few key things, or identify one reason why things might have kind of gone astray from there on in. So, if people are given the opportunity to be able to self-identify their issues, they get given an opportunity to, and given the techniques to become introspective and to understand themselves better. And I think all of those things don't just help people not commit suicide. I think they help people not even get anywhere near that.
Yeah.
So, early intervention is the thing. And, they talk about mental health. I mean, at what point has anybody ever spoken to you about mental health ever? Ever. If it's not for a charity on TV or, some high-profile person dying and there being a wave of empathy around that whole situation. I mean, you don't hear about it. Yeah. And when has anybody ever come to you and say, look, I want to equip you with the skill set and the tools that you need to be able to dig yourself out of a situation that you are definitely going to come across sometime between now and the time you're dead. And this could be in the next 5 years, could be 10 years, could be 20 years. You're going to have a marriage failure, you're going to have a business breakup, you're going to be bullied, you're going to be assaulted, you're going to find yourself in an embarrassing situation, you're going to fuck something up terribly. And so what are you going to do when that all happens? The answer is, I don't know. Most people have no idea.
Yeah.
How do I claw myself back from that? What happens if 4 of those things happen in the same week?
Yeah.
Lose your job, lose your wife, crash your car. What happens to you? And most people don't have a contingency. They don't understand. They don't know what the knee-jerk reaction would be to tragedy or a series of them in a row. They don't live in expectation of them. They don't understand that these things are. It's not a matter of if they'll happen, it's when and to what extent that some bad things are going to impact on their life. So they live a life under the guise of, I just want to be happy. And they don't understand that happiness is just a falsity. You actually don't even want to be around happy people. Happy people are annoying. If they're happy all the time, that's not what we're after. What we're after is contentment punctuated with moments of happiness. That's what gives people that's what gives people purpose. So and people that are enjoying purpose tend to be happier. So if your contentment is normally driven by your sense as to how well that you're moving forward, and it doesn't matter where you're moving forward from. If you're a young person and you're working your way in your first job, that's one way. If you're a millionaire becoming a billionaire, that's another thing. But if you're just moving forward, if you're just an amateur arm wrestler and you're just trying to beat the guy that's a bit better than you at the club, but that's your little mission. That's your mission. That's your purpose in that regard. And I'm sure, there's many little missions that people should have in their life. They should have little missions going in. all the important facets of their life, their work, their family life, their relationships, their important relationships. Maybe that's with their children or their friends and their family. They should have little missions. They have a little thing. We're going to go to the winery with our friends on at least once a month. I'm going to do this with the kids every twice a week. We're going to do this as a ritual with the family every Saturday evening. We're going to. These are very simple, straightforward strategies that are rarely shared with people, and there is no wonder we have a crisis of masculinity, and why we have the highest rates of suicide that have ever been recorded happening in what is comfortably the most prosperous our country has ever been.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the same as like children of trust fund babies or whatever. Children of really rich parents tend to do terribly because they have a permanent safety net. Whatever they try to do, they know that it's okay if I fail, because I'll be fine. And it's like, but for everyone else, it's like, this better work or I'm screwed. And so, you've got so much more. You're going to be working so much harder if everything relies on this thing working. You're going to put so much more time, effort, thought, commitment, sacrifice, discipline into getting that thing to work than the guy who's like, I'll give it a go, but, if it doesn't work, I don't care.
Yeah, well, they don't have the opportunity to build resilience, because you need resilience to ultimately be successful. And if you don't have, again, the tools to develop resilience, then failure ensues. And it doesn't matter where you start in life, that's the case. And so, these are. It is difficult. It's a difficult, sensitive subject that, and I heard a story today about a friend, a mutual friend, and just harrowing. And you can see how people, how their lives can seemingly turn on a head, and the worst thoughts enter their mind in that situation. But I'm also very, very confident that when these things happen, most people aren't prepared in a positive way. They're prepared to react in it in the most negative way. And that's because of the preparation. If something bad happens, the expectation is that you'll respond negatively. It's our cultural and societal expectation, and to some extent, if it's really bad, you're going to. You might be a psychopath if you didn't to some degree, but it's to the degree. It is to the degree, and if you've done the work and you are prepared and you've got a contingency and you've got a plan for when things inevitably go wrong, then inevitably when things do go wrong, your plan will save you.
Yeah, it's like the issue comes up, whatever it happens, you let that overwhelm you for a couple of minutes. You feel that pain, annoyance, anger, frustration. Okay, what am I going to do to fix it?
Yeah.
How do I fix this?
Yes.
That's the next step.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel the fury or whatever it is that got you in that moment.
Yeah.
But it'd be crazy if you didn't.
Yeah.
But, it's like you get that, and then now I need to fix this problem.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me find out. Well, let me bring the tools that I need, that I've developed over my lifetime to address this issue, as opposed to, having no tools, and then that overwhelming emotion just continues and spirals into, whatever, and destruction. Yeah. So it is difficult. It's like, have you read that Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus thing? The idea of, I had to learn this early in our marriage, which was interesting for me. That when Tegan, my wife, Tegan, when she's telling me a problem, she just wants to tell me her feelings about the problem.
Yeah.
She doesn't want me to fix the problem.
Yes, yeah, but you want to fix the
problem.
problem.
I want to fix the problem.
You want to fix the problem.
Oh, well, let's just fix it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want you to fix it.
Well,
I just want to tell you about it.
Yeah, and that's the heart of your issue about the less than masculine way of that men are expected to address their depression, which is to go and have a chat about it. Well, if you go talk to another bloke, he'll want to fix it for you, and these aren't things that other people can fix for you often. They're things that you need to change your orientation around. So, having somebody to talk to hear your problems is good, but men really want practical ways in order to fix things and to get things going. And when it comes to a lot of these issues, invariably, I mean, you don't spend more time with anybody else other than yourself, and it's yourself that'll have to sort through these problems. Men need the tools, they need the guidance, they need that, and there's there are resources available to people, and certainly if people are watching and they're suffering in this way, and they're wondering what might be some of their options or some of the strategies that they can employ, certainly reach out to the podcast, and we'll happily do what we can to point you in the right direction. And and if you find talking to somebody else helpful, by all means, go for it, do it. We're not saying don't. We're just saying that for a lot of men, that's not the path, and for them to feel that that's the only way leads to many, unfortunately, feeling that there aren't any other options, and feel disempowered and unable to address these issues on their own, or that they're discouraged from even attempting to do so, when our observation might be that is certainly worthy of consideration if they've got the right tools to do so.
Exactly, absolutely, yeah. Well, that's it, and that's why I love the Arm Wrestling Club so much. You meet so many great people, and you are under adversity. You're trying to beat them; they're beating you. You're losing. You're trying this, and then sometimes you win.
Yeah.
Great fun, and that the camaraderie that comes with that, and that's why we wanted to make it a team. And you're part of the club, and you're one of the guys, and I make a profile for you, and you're on the site and your thing and whatever. It's like, oh, I'm part of something. I've got a reason.
It creates community. It's all those things that we were mentioning before, which were great things about sport, and that it create the things in sport that maybe you try to replicate the religious side. The religious side.
The
religious side of things,
right.
Religious, the rituals. They're having the training on Sunday, and then when that's not on, there's always a chat group people can go to, and then there's always a super match to talk about, and so everybody's got their. I think everybody needs these communities. These are the things that people should be seeking out, and maybe further to the point that you were asking me to make before, maybe that is the answer. Maybe people just need to be in commune with people that share their vested interests, share their values, share their morals, and enjoy doing what they love with people that they enjoy.
Thanks. Well, I think that's a pretty good way to wrap it up. So we've this is episode. I think we're up to 49.
49. We'll have to do something special next time.
50. Yeah, 50. That'll be a big one.
Yeah.
The half ton.
We're almost there.
I'll bring a cricket bat in and wave it around.
I wonder if we can get Vincent Ronaldo in.
I'd love it.
That would be my favourite thing. If anybody knows Vincent Ronaldo,
we would love to get Vincent.
It would be so good. It would be
fanboying over it the whole time. He would have no idea who we are.
Oh no, absolutely, no reason to either. Totally. We didn't have ads on the TV in the 1980s every Sunday before the news. That's for sure. So, well, thank you to everybody that's hung in there and listened to this podcast. It's been across a whole range of issues, none of which we're appropriately qualified to discuss. But hoping that you enjoyed it nonetheless. And of course, we'll be back next Thursday with a whole lot more combat sports action. Actually, I don't even know who's going to be our guest as yet.
Not sure, but you got anything big coming up? Maybe on the 27th of
27th and 27th of August. We're at Garage Wars. Garage Wars 2.0 is what the marketing people say. So thank you very much to Andy and Mario for putting on a spectacular event. I believe Jake Ward's going to be there, calling the action, and I'll be making an appearance in the background. I'll try and stick my head on camera at some stage.
A walkthrough,
just a casual walkthrough, so that's going to be huge. So that's in Melbourne on the 27th of August, and so a big one there. 4 weeks later, we're at the 1st of October. 5 weeks later, we're at Adelaide Oval for DFC 15, which some spectacular matchups coming our way for that one. So certainly stay tuned to that. So
Absolutely.
That's my calendar, and I think on the 22nd of September, if you want to make your way to Mawson Lakes, it's Dog's Day Out, and I'm emceeing that. So
Dog's
feel
Day
free
Out.
to bring your dog. It'll be good fun.
I've got 2 dogs.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
They would run off instantly.
Yeah.
I would spend the whole time going, ah!
Yeah.
Yeah.
They mightn't win any prizes.
Probably
then.
not.
No. Okay.
Not the dog of the year award. The Matt Connolly dog of the year
The
award.
Matt Connolly Dog of the Year. We could just start giving that one out to anybody we like. Yeah.
It's probably an insult if you give that
To a person.
What?
I mean, what?
You bastard.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Ha.